Hello and welcome to the webinar today regarding the how to register as corporate service providers. My name is Rebecca and I'm the partnership manager at Companies House. We're doing a bit of housekeeping for the moment while we let people join, and let me explain the content and purpose of the webinar. In addition to me, we have Mark Buckley, who works as the implementation lead here at Companies House. And behind the scenes, we have a team of colleagues who are expertly supporting us in the background, waiting to answer your questions. So if you have any questions about what we're talking about, they are the experts and here to help. So feel free to send in your questions to us throughout the presentation, and I'll explain how to do this just in a moment in case you're not used to this system. We can only answer general questions and can't go into details on specific cases, so please don't put any personal data in the question box. It's a large number of people joining us today, which is great to see. And we'll go through the questions, and we only have 45 minutes, so apologies if we don't get to everyone. So how do you ask questions? So on the GoToWebinar systems, if you go look at the screen in front of you, you will see a question box in the corner to your right hand side. If you click on that, you'll be able to write your question in and send it directly to the team. You can make the box clip bigger by simply clicking on the icon, and the box will open wider. If you're on a smartphone or a tablet, you can ask questions, again using the question mark symbol of the screen. Before we get into, let's see if it's working. So if anyone wants to put a comment in, I'm currently in sunny Cardiff in South Wales, and my colleagues are dotted all over. So if you want to put in any sort of quick tester, feel free to do so now. I just wanted to highlight that we are recording this, and we will distribute the copies to people that are in attendance within 24 hours. We'll also be sharing this on the YouTube channel in a week or so after this recording. So if everyone's ready, we'll begin. So what we'll cover today in this webinar is our Authorised Corporate Service Providers Implementation Lead, Mark Buckley, will give an overview of the ECC Act, discuss what's changing and why, and how to register an ACSP. Then we'll have a walkthrough video of the ACSP registration service, information on the Tell Companies House how you verified someone's identity service, and when this will go live. The questions will be throughout the session via the chat function, and if we have any time at the end, we'll discuss a few questions that have come in, and we'll share some contact information. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Mark to begin the webinar. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's lovely to see so many of you. Well, virtually, I can't actually see you, but metaphorically. There's 1,800 people currently on the webinar and climbing. So there's obviously a lot of interest in this webinar. A little bit about myself. My name is Mark Buckley. I'm currently the implementation lead for authorized corporate service providers within the identity verification program. And obviously, as many of you may know, authorized corporate service providers went live a fortnight ago, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So I'm here today to talk about sort of the Economic Crime and Corporate Transparency Act, or ECCTA or ECTA, depending on your preference. And as my colleague said, if you've got any questions, you put them in the questions tab. My colleagues and myself will have time to answer questions later. So start off, who are we? I won't tell everybody on this call who Companies House is, because many of you will already know who we are. I think this is just a sort of a precursor slide to sort of explain that I think historically it's not sort of uncommon knowledge that Companies House's sort of previous role before ECCTA changes came in was simply to accept information. We were incredibly successful at accepting information. We were the quickest, the fastest, the cheapest sort of incorporation registry in the world. And with that came a lot of error, potentially fraud, suspicious activity linked to corporate entities. The ECCTA has been implemented, which now give the registrar a lot more powers to sort of push back, query, question, refuse to register, and all of these things that I think a lot of people within this landscape have been crying out for. So next slide, please. So ECCTA gives Companies House, as I just mentioned, the power to play a more significant role in tackling economic crime and supporting economic growth. I think it's fair to say that these measures won't sort of fix everything immediately. We'll still be implementing ECCTA measures well into sort of 2026, and some of the transitions won't finish until sort of early 2027. But I think over time, these measures, when they combined, will certainly lead to sort of improved transparency and more accurate and trusted information on our register. And as a consequence, will hopefully drive up confidence, not only in the register, but in the UK economy with people utilising our data. So next slide, please. So for the first time, the registrar has sort of new objectives, okay, on the face of the Act. So the first one is any person is required to deliver a document to the register, does so, and that the requirements for proper delivery are complied with. All information contained in the register, and this is the registrar has to ensure this, is accurate and that the register contains everything it ought to. The registrar has to ensure that records kept by her do not create a false or a misleading impression to members of the public. And then the fourth one, which again is very, very new, is to prevent companies and others from carrying out unlawful activities or facilitating the carrying out of by others of unlawful activities. And we've introduced on new incorporations and other documents a sort of a lawful purpose statement, so that if it then turns out that whoever set that company up has made a false statement, we then got powers to be able to deal with that. So a lot of these things are actually statutory objectives now for the registrar, whereas she didn't have statutory objectives, but it was a sort of a thing that she was trying to attain previously before ECCTA. So next slide. So the first set of changes under ECCTA came on the 4th of March 2024. So as I mentioned, the registrar now has powers to query, remove and refuse information, and including the ability to investigate and enforce all of those powers. We introduced stronger checks on company names, although we did have quite good checks on company names, but ECCTA give us more in that regard. There's new rules for registered office addresses. We now sort of check whether or not registered offices and URAs and other addresses are actually sort of fit for the purpose that they're given to us. You can't have a PO box address, these kind of things. The lawful purpose statement that I've mentioned, and the registrar for the first time also has her own gateways to share data with and to have data shared with her for the purpose and the function of the register. So until sort of 4th of March 2024, the registrar didn't actually have our own sort of data sharing powers. So next slide, please. So future changes under ECCTA. I think 3 weeks ago, this slide would have been accurate, but as I said, we've actually successfully launched the registration of authorised corporate service providers, and we've had quite a lot of applications already. Identity verification is due to go live next Tuesday, so that's the voluntary period where we will release our service provider and the ability for ACSPs to deliver identity verification information to the registrar. My colleagues are also working on the goal of mandating software-only filing for accounts. So they're currently in the process of digitising all the paper-based transactions and sort of web-based transactions to make sure that when we do mandate, everybody has a digital way of delivering information to the registrar. We're not at the point where we are notifying people of mandating yet, but what we have committed to is to give everybody in that community a minimum of, or actually 21 months notice before we actually mandate the accounts. And also, as part of the changes, we're also making a lot of changes to limited partnerships, and my colleagues are sort of looking at digitising the processes and aligning a lot of limited partnership sort of functionality and sort of statutory requirements to those of limited companies. So things like having the ability to strike off a limited partnership, and limited partnerships able to provide notice to the registrar that they close in, those kind of things, which aren't currently on the face of the 1907 Act. So next slide, please. So the next bit is a sort of an explanation video about authorised corporate service providers. It sums up ACSPs far better than I can. Hopefully the technology will work and you can all hear the video. But if you can't hear the video, it's also got subtitles and captions. So can I play the video, please?
At Companies House, it's crucial for us to know who's filing information on the public register to help prevent fraud. Right now, we don't have a full picture of who files with us, but new legislation under the Economic Crime and Corporate Transparency Act 2023 is set to change this. In the future, anyone setting up, running, owning, or controlling a company in the UK will need to verify their identity. This includes anyone who acts on behalf of companies, such as professional service providers like agents or accountants. Third-party providers who wish to offer client verification services for Companies House will need to register their business with us as an Authorised Corporate Service Provider, also known as an ACSP. Registration for ACSPs will open from the 18th of March 2025. In the future, third-party providers who wish to file information on behalf of other companies will also need to be registered as an ACSP. There is a registration fee of £55. To register as an ACSP, individuals and firms must be supervised by one of the UK's anti-money laundering supervisory bodies, such as HMRC or the Financial Conduct Authority. There are 25 in all. Someone who holds a senior role in the business will need to complete the registration process with Companies House. Once registered, you'll get a new Authorised Agent account and ACSP ID number. You'll use this account to tell us about any identity verification checks you've carried out, and later to file information on behalf of other companies. You'll also be able to add other employees in your business to the account, so they too can carry out these functions on behalf of the ACSP. These employees will not need to verify their identity, but they will need to set up a new Companies House account as part of the process. Make sure you understand these upcoming changes so that your business can transition smoothly and continue providing valuable services to your clients. By doing so, you'll be contributing to a more secure and transparent business environment in the UK. Follow us on social media and sign up to our email newsletter for all the latest updates.
Okay, thank you for that. So I won't cover everything off in all of these slides because, as I say, the video actually summarises ACSPs really well. What I will say is, as well as the power to register an authorised corporate service provider, the registrar also has new powers of enforcement and compliance for ACSPs. So going forward, we'll have the power to suspend and or sort of cease, deauthorize an ACSP. But our overarching policy will be to try to work with the ACSP to get that ACSP to the sort of standards and the requirements that the registrar needs, and sort of if we can get the ACSP to those standards, then they'll be able to continue registering and filing as normal. The other thing I'll say is that ACSPs will be expected to verify individuals to the same standard as those verifying directly with Companies House, and we have put our sort of standard and guidance on our website, gov.uk, to support ACSPs in this. What I should say is, whilst our standard is predicated on GPG 45, it is not GPG 45, it is Companies House own standard, and there are things in there that organisations will have to do to meet Companies House's standard. And as I say, that we published the guidance on gov.uk for people to go and read that. Next slide, please. So next is a quick video demonstration, about 2 or 3 minutes long, on how to apply to register as a Companies House authorised agent. So my colleague Oliver will actually talk people through sort of the screens and the information that they will see as part of that. What I will say as part of this, before you see the video, what we did notice early on, sort of a fortnight ago with the first few transactions, is that when people were logging into the system to try to start the registration process, it was kicking them out. The reason for that is that those users didn't have the new one login Companies House account to do the identity verification element. So we put in guidance and things to sort of help people through that process. But if you are due to start that process, if whoever's doing the identity verification element goes onto our sort of site, click on register or sign in to an account, and then set up a new account, then you should actually fly through the process. So we could play the video, please.
This video is going to show you how to use the Apply to Register as a Companies House Authorised Agent service. Once you've reached the start page, we're going to scroll down and we're going to press Start Now. If you've already started an application, you can choose to resume it, or you can start a new one. In this case, we're going to start from scratch. The first thing we're going to be asked is, what type of business are you registering? For this example, we're going to go with limited company. Next, you'll be asked to enter your company number. Once you've entered that, you can press Save and Continue. And then you'll be asked to confirm whether this is your company or not. If it is, we can confirm and continue again. Next, you'll be asked to enter your authentication code. Once you've done that, then we're going to be asking you, what is your role in the business? We're going to select I'm a director. If we're registered with our anti-money laundering body under the name of our business, we're going to select that. However, if we're registered under a different name, we will choose that option. For this case, we're going to go with our name of our business. Next, we'll be asked what address should we use for correspondence. Now, we can use the existing registered office address, or we can select a new one. For this case, we're going to go through and use the same address. Then we'll be asked, what sector do we work in? There's a few different options you can choose here. We can select prefer not to say if you choose, but we're going to go with auditors. Next, we'll be asked what the correspondence email address is. Now, we can use the same address that we logged in before with our one login, or we can select a different email address. If we choose to do that, we can just type it in here. Then we'll continue. Next, we'll be asked which anti-money laundering bodies are we registered with. For this example, we're going to choose the first two. Scroll down and press Save and Continue. Then we'll be asked to enter the numbers that we have for those anti-money laundering bodies. Once we've entered those, we can press Save and Continue. Then we'll be asked to check the details and make sure they're correct. So if they're not, we can go back and change them. However, we can just confirm and continue. Next, we'll be asked to review our responsibilities as an authorised agent. There's a few on the screen here. Once we're happy with those, we can confirm and continue. Then we'll be asked to check our answers before sending in our application. So this will be a last chance to make any final tweaks. Then we'll continue to payment. Once we get to this screen, we'll get into our card details. Just going to enter an example here. Continue and confirm payment. Once that's happened, then we'll get taken to the application submitted screen. So this is the final screen. You've submitted payment and the application has gone through.
Okay, thank you for that. What I would say, and I'll cover this in a sort of slide a little later, is that we are rejecting quite a high number of applications at the minute, and the main reason, so for example, we've rejected 350 applications, and 342 of those are because of the sort of the ID number with the relevant supervisor. We can't match it. There are a few edge cases within that where the data is different between us and the supervisory body, but the majority of the rejects are because of people getting the sort of AML number wrong on the system, and that's the main thing that we are using to sort of cross-reference your application with your supervisor's data. You may have seen some blogs recently where people are explaining that, where they've fallen foul of that themselves. But I think that is the main sort of reject reason that we are having. So for those of you who are thinking about making an ACSP application in the coming weeks and months, if you don't know which number to use, check with your supervisor to get it right, because it'll just sort of mean that we reject and you have to make another application. So when you do have your ACSP sort of validated, you'll have an account and you'll be able to add and remove users. So you'll have your ACSP account. It'll be the new Companies House type account, and you'll be able to add your own employees to that account. Okay. For that, your employees will need to either already have a Companies House account, sort of email address, or they'll have to set one up. So if they set up the new OneID account, you'll be able to bind that to your authorized corporate service provider account. All right, and then your employees will be able to sort of undertake sort of functions and sort of provide identity verification information to the registrar on your behalf. And then we know not only is the information coming from you as an ACSP, but also the individuals within your organization are also identified. Also, if your details change, we'll be providing you with a portal within your account to be able to tell us that. That is due to go live, I think, the 25th of April, but it might be the 12th of May. So in the next sort of 4 to 6 weeks, you should have a portal within there that you can tell us to change. So if your name changes, if you want to change the correspondence email address, all of these things that normal companies and organizations would change throughout their life cycle, we'll be providing a process to do that. If any of those things change before that functionality is live, then you just need to sort of email us via the inquiries at Companies House sort of email address, and we will pick that up, and we will affect those changes and sort of interact with you in order to do so. We're also developing the ability to allow you to sort of close your own account. So, you know, if you're retiring or closing down your business for whatever reason, then we'll also be providing you with the ability to sort of notify us of closing the account. But until that functionality is live again, if you just let us know through inquiries at Companies House, then we'll pick it up and we'll engage with you. So next slide, please. Oh, I think we've jumped. Oh yeah, okay. So I think registration top tips for ACSPs. I mentioned check your AML number. As I say, this is the highest reject reason that we've got, where people are sort of getting that wrong and not checking with the supervisor. If you're an entity registered at Companies House, we've had a few instances where the name has changed on the public register, but for whatever reason, the supervisor hadn't updated the details within their register. If there are any of you out there that are in that situation and we've rejected for that reason, and you can't sort of contact your supervisor, if you want to reach out to me or the teams via inquiries, I'm able to sort of, I've got contacts for every supervisor's sort of administration team. I'll be able to sort of get a sort of confirmation from the relevant supervisor for you. Also, I know the email that goes back that says we'll process your application within 2 days. The majority of applications where we hold data, and that's about 95% of them, are getting processed within 2 days. But as I say, if you're a new sort of AML supervised entity, your data may not be in the relevant supervisor's data, or there may be questions. These things take a lot longer, so please be patient with the team while we deal with your process. Next slide, please. Once you're registered, there are legal requirements which ACSPs must follow. The ACSP must always be registered with at least one AML supervisory body. So if for whatever reason you change supervisory bodies within a period, I don't know what circumstances would cause that, but if you do, you have to have continuous supervision. You must tell us if there's changed the information we hold about you within 14 days of that change happening, such as a change in AML status, for example. And also if we request sort of further information about your filings, identity checks or compliance with legal responsibilities, you have to provide this. It's part of the sort of registrar's querying powers, and it's also an offence not to respond. And also where you provide identity verification information to the registrar, you have to keep the information that you use to identity verify that individual for 7 years from the point where you identity verified them. Next slide, please. So ACSPs are obviously potentially committing offences if they don't comply with the legal requirements. Meaning sole trader or company directors could receive fines or face criminal prosecutions. And we may also suspend or cease the ACSP status, which would prevent you from being able to file or verify people's identities. I think for the majority of the high risk sort of issues, we'd probably be looking at using the power rather than the fine or the enforcement route. But the registrar does have quite a big arsenal of tools in a sort of toolbox to be able to sort of work with an ACSP, get the ACSP to standards, and if that ACSP doesn't get the standards, then there's fines or prosecution and or suspension and cessation available to her. Next slide, please. So as well as just releasing ACSPs, from the 8th of April, next week, next Tuesday, ACSPs will be able to tell us they verified a client. Use now new tell Companies House you verified someone's identity service. This should I say should, it will, he's confidently saying, appear in your ACSP account header when you log on, and then you'll be able to start providing us with the identity verification information for your client. Obviously, you need to tell us about the person, their details, their name, dates of birth, address, and the relevant identity checks that you've carried out. As I said, the checks you complete must meet our identity verification standard, and if you haven't already, then check those out on gov.uk. And the email address you provide for that individual can only be used once to verify someone's identity, and we'll use this to send that individual their personal code. So when you provide us the ID, that'll hit our database. We will send the personal code to the individual, and we will send you a notice that we have done that and that a successful ID has been completed. And that notice will have a unique reference in it, which links directly to that person's identity sort of information in our system. So if, for example, you make a mistake with that person's sort of email address or date of birth or whatever reason, you can then sort of contact us, tell us that you made a mistake, provide that reference number and your ACSP details so that we know it's you, and then we'll work with you to resolve that issue for your client. You won't need to upload copies of documents you've checked, but as I said, you'll need to keep these records for that 7-year period. And when you've verified someone's identity, we'll ask you to make a confirmation statement to say that you are satisfied the person is who they claim to be and that you've done the checks to the relevant standards. And if the person connects their verified ID to the Companies House record as a director or person with significant control, we'll show the statement of that identity verification on the public record to confirm they're verified. So that statement will show Mark Buckley has been identity verified by ABC IDV Associates Limited on XYZ date, and that will show alongside my personal record on the company's register for each company that I'm identity verified against. Next slide, please. So that's sort of my bit of the presentation over with, but I think to keep up to date about sort of Companies House changes, check out our sort of campaign site on gov.uk. There's lots of gov.uk blogs and guidance. Obviously, my colleagues sort of publish things via lots of different social media channels. You can subscribe to newsletters, and if you've got any inquiries, you can email inquiries at Companies House. Anything related to an ACSP or identity verification will come straight through to the team who will be able to answer you. The other thing I should remember is I think at the end of the survey, at the end of the presentation, you'll be asked to complete the survey. So if you could kindly do that, that would be greatly appreciated. Next slide. Any questions?
Thanks, Mark. We've had loads come in actually. So thank you for all the questions, and we've done our best to get through as many as possible. And we'll try and pick up some of the most frequently asked ones now.
Okay.
So Mark, do I have to pay a yearly fee to stay registered in ACSP?
No. So it's a one-off fee for registration. Thereafter, any costs are covered through our annual fee.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Do company secretaries need to register as an ACSP?
No. So company secretaries are employees of the company. So when we get to mandating presenters, so where everybody that files information with the registrar has to make themselves known to her, the secretaries, if they are filing on behalf of the company, can actually verify their identity and then sort of file information on behalf of the company as an employee and provide us their unique identifier as part of that process.
Okay, thank you for that. Another one is, as a part qualified accountant who files on behalf of a small number of clients, do I need to register as an ACSP? And the second part is, and do I need to do it now or later?
Okay, so If you're filing information on behalf of clients, okay, and you're not doing the identity verification elements, then you don't have to register as an ACSP now. You can wait until spring, summer 2026, when at the moment, that is when we are the mandate and the requirement that everybody who presents information to the registrar either has to be a director, a PSC, or an employee of a company filing on behalf of their own company, in which case they can do that by identity verifying and providing us with their personal code at the point of presentation. Or you'd have to be, if you are filing on behalf of other companies as an agent, then you will need to be an ACSP in order to do that.
Okay, so another one is, I understand that as an ACSP, I need to meet the company house verification standard when verifying my clients. But is this the same standard as the good practice guide of GPG 45 identity proofing framework?
Yeah, okay. So Company's House Standard, it's on the face of our guidance. So whilst it was predicated on the GPG 45 framework, it is not GPG 45. So there are things within GPG 45 that you can use to identity verify people, which Company's House haven't taken on board. And our standard is slightly different to the requirements within GPG 45. So whilst it is based on GPG 45, it is very much our own standard, and there are things within our own standard that you must do in order to comply. And as I said, that's on gov.uk, so the registrar's rules and guidance on how to identity verify.
Okay, great. That's all the ones that we've sort of brought in from the chat room. We're actually running a little bit behind time. Is there anything else, Mark, that you wanted to add before we sign off?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I'll just go to just for us to say a massive thank you for everyone that's attended today. We really appreciate you taking the time to come to Company's House webinar. As Mark said, can you keep an eye on the social channels, subscribe to our newsletter, and there's the inquiries email address if you've got any further questions. But if that's everything from us today, I'm going to draw this to a close. As I said before, Mark said before, there is a survey that will be coming out to you directly after this, and we will have this webinar sent to you directly if as you attended, and it also will be available in a week's time on YouTube for you to look back on. Okay, thank you so much for everyone, and I'm going to draw this to a close. Thank you. Bye for now.